Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Information and Security Education and Research Artificial Intelligence Initiative webinar series. And everyone is very welcome to the event. We're happy to see you here. And we are going to have a talk today called AI in Criminal Justice is Nothing New. And our guest speaker today is Mr. Christopher Edley III. He is the Executive Director of the AI and Justice Consortium. Mr. Edley is the director of the AI and Justice Consortium, which is a nonprofit working to ensure that AI improves justice for all. For nearly a decade, he's been a criminal justice reform strategist advising nonprofit and academic organizations dedicated to evidence-based criminal justice research, practice, and policy. Since 2019, he has been engaged in machine learning and AI development, first with a focus on narrative framing, then moving to designing practical applications that improve outcomes for impacted community and justice systems practitioners. Mr. Edley is a glass half empty optimist, and it's my pleasure to present to you today Mr. Christopher Edley III.
Thank you very much, Professor Kimberly Black and Professor Musa Ayash, the CINSER Center and its staff, and to the Chicago State University for the warm welcome, and most importantly, for dedicating some time and attention today to this critically important but seriously underaddressed set of challenges and, to be clear, of opportunities, which is AI's increasing presence in our criminal, legal, and justice systems. So, my name is Chris Edley III. I am the Executive Director of the AI and Justice Consortium. We are a new organization that brings together folks to work on normative frameworks, initially on various issue areas, ultimately on AI and criminal justice as a whole. So I spend my days bringing folks together and encouraging them to think together about if and how AI should be used for things like policing, in courts, prosecutors and public defenders' offices, and in jails, but also, and equally important, if and how AI should be used by the social workers, counselors, therapists, educators, community-based organizations that serve impacted communities and really are increasingly becoming the backbone of justice in America. It's my organization's mission and really my own personal mission to develop a distinct, interdisciplinary, and representative field of AI in criminal justice. So that's why I'm so excited to be here today. And you can consider this entire talk really, and the question and answer that follows, really a pitch to get you interested and engaged in this emerging and important field. My informational goal today is to make sure that the CSU community understands that AI in criminal justice is happening, that it is complicated and at times scary, but also, again, that it gives us some real opportunities to improve justice, fairness, and individual and community well-being. I'll try to do that by walking through 3 of the ways that AI might be used in criminal justice or is being used in criminal justice. The first will be risk assessment, particularly in a pretrial context. The second will be surveillance cameras in particular. And the third is automated report writing. And I'll get into those in a minute. Because my other goal is more important, I think, which is by the end of this hour, I want you all to see that AI, and more specifically AI in criminal justice, is not mysterious or magical or unapproachable or uncontrollable. It didn't come from outer space, and it's not a new god with a new and all-powerful priesthood. And it does not require us to invent some entirely new or extremely complicated set of values and strategies to get it right. And really, I mean this. All of us on this call, with our variety of experiences and expertises in both technology and justice, could figure out truly excellent principles and policy to govern AI's use in criminal justice. We could even design, if not build, I don't know who all is on this call and their actual engineering skills. I certainly don't have any. But we could design a lot of the tools that we would want and the practices that we need that could improve justice. Unfortunately, we're not being asked to do that today, although I think it would be a great exercise for us to do so. And instead, we need to develop something bigger and participate in something bigger, which is a field of AI and justice. So, what do I mean by a distinct interdisciplinary and representative field? Let me go through this and then I'll get into the use cases that we were talking about. Well, a representative field, I mean that every type or group of people interested in criminal justice has a voice and a seat at the table. So that's systems actors like correctional leaders, sheriffs, judges, police, sitting with community leaders, advocates, formerly incarcerated people, or better yet, people who are currently incarcerated. That's going to be experts in a technical sense. That's going to be experts in an experiential sense. An interdisciplinary field means, again, that it combines the criminal justice expertise, the tech and AI expertise, the legal and policy expertise, and the expertise of lived experiences into one space. Just like bioethics brought ethical philosophy and biomedical sciences together, we need to combine our expertise disciplines to fully understand the intersection of AI and criminal justice, address it, make the best of it, avoid the worst of it, and improve justice in America. And as a distinct field, what I mean is that we need to focus our attention very deliberately on the intersection of AI and criminal justice as much as possible, isolate the field from traditional, highly politicized debates about criminal justice, say bail reform, the relationship more philosophical between punishment and accountability, what armed police should do and what they should be handing off to unarmed responders, things like that. Lengths of stay, lengths of incarceration, whether incarceration is ever a good thing or not, all of that politicized work. And we need to isolate the field from the traditional now debates about AI, things like energy use or water use, environmental issues, how it might raise our electrical bills, whether it's breaking us apart, making us more alone, or bringing us together, or where data centers should be and shouldn't be built. Those are all absolutely inarguably important discussions to be having. But if we try to have them all at once, rather than restrict our focus to the intersection of AI and criminal justice, we'll be having all these debates at once, and we won't get anywhere. So like I said, my mission is to get people involved, thinking and working on what I claim is a distinct field, a problem space, and also an opportunity space. And that's why I'm so happy to be here with you all today. Okay. Last thing I'll say before jumping into the examples is that when AI goes wrong in criminal justice, it is very, very different than when it goes on in every other context aside from war. AI in criminal justice can affect personal liberty, whether or not you're locked up. It can affect how much of an armed police presence is in our communities. It can affect what the police do in our communities. And all that comes with that. It can affect economic opportunities. It is not a minor glitch. It's not a wrong train ticket, the wrong seat on an airplane, the wrong date you get set up on when something goes wrong with AI and criminal justice. It is very, very, very important to get it right. And there are not enough people working in this space. I was at a conference in Berkeley 3 weeks ago, Berkeley, California, on emerging technology policy. Out of the 300 people in the room, myself and my colleague at Berkeley were the only two people working on criminal justice. It was scary. But it also made us, when people found out what we were doing, kind of the coolest people in the room. Go figure. Okay, so our three use cases: risk assessment, surveillance cameras, automated report writing. Risk assessment. So there are many types of risk assessment, but I'm going to focus here on what I know best from my work, which is the pretrial context, right? In a lot of places, when you're arrested, you're interviewed. And based on those answers and on any records they have on you, you're given two scores. One is what the likelihood is that you will show up to your court date if you're released. The other is the predicted likelihood that you'll commit another crime while you're out on release prior to your court date, right? Important stuff to know. These are very simple algorithms administered by humans. So I'm not talking AI yet. Although one of the systems does use some machine learning, but we're going to talk about the one that doesn't, because I think it's actually more interesting. Two main systems. One is called Compass. The other that we're going to talk about is called the PSA, or the Public Safety Assessment Tool. And I know the folks who run the Public Safety Assessment Tool in New York City, as well as some of the folks who invented it. Good people, best intentions, do great work, want to improve things, want to reduce incarceration, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've got some stories to tell there. Okay, so background. Invented around 2013 by the Arnold Foundation, which is a major criminal justice reform funder. Big into evidence-based research, oil money out of Texas. Who knows how these rich people decide where to put their money? It's just what they did, right? The idea was that it would cut out some of the bias in release decision making by judges, right? And by prosecutors in terms of what they're asking for. Do you want to keep the person in jail until their court date? Do you want to release them on some amount of bail? What else might they need? And it should give judges something more solid to use to decide these things than their own instincts, their own experience, and frankly, historically, a lot of that's been quite racist and quite socioeconomically unjust. So the idea was to put this thing in that's a little bit that's more objective, quote unquote, and create some level of consistency. So far, so good. Okay, so to develop it, they took something around like 1.5 million case records in 300 jurisdictions, analyzed all that, looked for patterns, and they came up with 9 factors to look at. And based on that, they create your scores, which are just recommendations. They don't actually make the decision. Judges aren't even required to use them, but they're just there as a piece of objective material. Okay, so age at current arrest, the defendant's age at the time of the current charge. 2, is it allegedly a violent offense? Is it a violent charge? And what the definition of a violent crime is a whole nother lecture that I'm not equipped to give, but it's complicated and some of them are ridiculously not violent. Is it a felony? Again, what is a felony? 4, Is the defendant facing another criminal charge at the time of the offense that we're talking about? 5, have they been convicted of a misdemeanor before? 6, prior felony conviction. 7, prior violent conviction. 8, prior failure to appear to a court hearing in the last 2 years. And 9, prior sentence to incarceration. So the answer to these questions, according to those 1.5 million cases in the past, should give a pretty good idea of whether or not you'll show up to court and whether or not you'll commit another crime before you do. And I know no AI yet. I'm getting there. The point here is that we got to talk about data. All AI is based on data, on patterns in data, on using that data to then predict, based on some input, the correct output, what's going to happen next. Whether that's a large language model like ChatGPT, which is trained on essentially all of the written words on the internet, it predicts what the next word is or the next set of words, right? It gets more complicated from there, but still ultimately it is a prediction engine based on past data. So the public safety assessment tool was trained on these 1.5 million cases and all the data points therein. Rather than a neural network finding the patterns in the data, was a set of human researchers working extremely hard, incredibly impressive job. I mean, that is a massive amount to deal with, right? I'm not saying they did a bad job. The PSA actually is quite effective in its predictions. It has helped reduce incarceration, and it does a pretty good job with the predictions, better than the old way, and less racially inequitable. But the data, what produced that data? Where'd it come from, right? And it came from the historical record. And that historical record is one of racist policing, racist judicial decision making, racist distribution of resources to communities, racist hiring practices that lead to economic instability and poverty. The data was not about the America that we're aiming for, because we don't have the data on that. The data is about the America that we're aiming against. So even in this simple algorithm that the humans use, all of that historical inequity and injustice is encoded and then, by way of the PSA, reproduced or locked in. And no matter how good the algorithm is, it's only able to produce what's expected based on the past conditions, right? In the words of one scholar, Ngozi Okedegbe of Boston University Law, pretrial algorithms generate racially and socioeconomically biased predictions because they are constructed and trained with biased data. Pretty simple. Okay, so at AI. So AI. All right. That's risk assessment. For better or for worse, it works better than things used to. The people who are trying to administer it, I can vouch for them. They're my friends, actually. They know it's not perfect. They want to do better. They have a better vision for America, but they don't have a way to necessarily do it. Okay, so the AI part. At some point, they got curious about whether AI would do a better job than the algorithm a couple years ago. So in parallel with the human run risk assessment, they built and ran an AI model trying to predict the same things. Will they appear in court? Will they commit a crime while they are out on release? They didn't give the results to the prosecutors or judges. They just ran it internally, testing it quite responsible, right? And what they found was that the AI model that they built did something like 1 or 2% better at predicting uh, court appearances and uh, second, second crime than the human run PSA. So what do you think they did? They decided not to use it. They decided that 1 to 2% was not good enough to justify the lack of transparency and the lack of explainability, meaning it would be nearly impossible to explain the technical details to the judges, the prosecutors, more importantly, to the community, right? Ultimately, criminal justice systems actors rely on the community to believe that they are valid, that they should have the power that they have over people's lives. It's important. It's a social contract. We all gotta believe in the thing to, not resist arrest or show up to jail or pay our taxes or vote, whatever, right? That's society. They were also afraid that if AI were behind it, because of the brand of AI and machine learning and the sort of infallibility that people believe it has, that judges and prosecutors would rely on it too much, that they wouldn't take into account other factors, mitigating factors, um, and it would take judicial discretion, right? We empower judges because we believe that they are good at judging things, that they have justice first. So they came to this principle that people do justice. Okay. And that's the last important point on this on risk assessment tools, which is, and this will come up again, the system is run by people. This was about 8 people in a room making the decision not to use AI. And in fact, if you go back into the law, there is very little in the law that gives them that power to make that decision. It's kind of just an administrative trickle down from the statutes. This is in New York City and New York State. Uh, it just happens to be these people who are actually, some of them were working at nonprofits that are contracted by the city. Some of them were city decision makers appointed by the mayor who was voted into office. It's just people. Okay. Surveillance cameras. They are lacing our cities. You can't go anywhere without being on one. They are on uh, all kinds of poles, all kinds of sides of buildings, and a lot of them are getting connected to police offices, police departments, synthesized, recorded. The data is being held. Now, the AI aspect of it, that's all one thing, right? The AI aspect of it is there's facial recognition technology, right? They're starting to apply facial recognition technology here. They're starting to apply uh, really sophisticated algorithms to be able to um, make out fuzzy footage, et cetera, et cetera. How long can you store that data is one question. Is it overly invasive? Constitutional questions about privacy, illegal search. Examples of surveillance, complex AI surveillance systems are companies like Flock, which has been in the news recently. And if you haven't read up on Flock, you should. There's another one that's wild called Project NOLA. That's actually a nonprofit based in New Orleans. Actually, I think it's based out, no, it's based in New Orleans. And they put up cameras all over the place without really any government oversight. Um, Police aren't technically allowed to use them without a warrant, but they give information to the police regardless. Axon has a number of systems as well. Another major company, they rebranded a couple of years ago from Taser. They started making money with tasers. They were the ones that introduced that technology. Um, so you're seeing I'm given the problems first, right? Local jurisdictions might be forced or just agree to share information with with the federal government, namely ICE lately, um, despite state laws, despite sanctuary city policies. So there's all these complicated information sharing, uh, jurisdiction control, power issues going on, political issues going on, right? All right, on the technical side, some of the things that they're doing that are problematic mainly come down to a lot of false positives, right? One thing people are using AI-powered surveillance to do is weapons identification. So using these tools to try and see if somebody has a gun in their belt, or if what they're holding is a gun, or even a knife in some cases, which makes me pretty concerned that we might have a Tamir Rice type situation by machine. False positives when there's a weapon involved can escalate very fast. Police show up, guns blazing, big problems, right? Facial recognition is notoriously bad at identifying non-white people. This is a data issue again, because there are simply a lot more training data, at least in America, of white faces. So if the accuracy rate of the facial recognition program declines dramatically when you're talking about Black people, how valid is that evidence in a courtroom? It's a big question. It's a big question. They're also combining multiple forms of information using camera work, right? There's a case recently where a man was convicted based primarily on a traffic camera seeing his car drive through an intersection where at the same time a sound recording device, ShotSpotter, which is another big technology that I'm sure a lot of you are aware of in Chicago, ShotSpotter thought it heard a gunshot. That's circumstantial, but based on it being technology believed to be infallible and valid. Okay, positive use cases of surveillance. And there's a lot of them. Missing persons. No argument there. Human trafficking. No argument there. Seeing crimes in progress, if it could really do it perfectly, sounds pretty good. Putting together evidence after the fact, right? So as an investigatory tool. But again, that runs into how long can you hold the data? How long should you be holding onto this data? When does it become just a blanket search of an entire community? Um, if the AI can identify that something isn't right, those can all be good. In San Francisco, there's a push to use a lot. They're linking up all their cameras using AI. They've got a very sophisticated police control center for it, and it's actually privately funded. It was built privately funded. And they are trying to, part of the reason that one of the things they're trying to do is use AI-powered surveillance to identify overdoses in progress on the street. That's cool. I think that's cool. But who gets sent to the scene? What does the person sent to the scene do? Is it armed officers? Is it medical personnel? So, as always here, we layer on the existing complexity and challenges of our current criminal justice system. Okay, I'm making this even more complicated, right? It's not getting any easier, and that's part of my point. Last use case, automated report writing. I don't know if you all have heard about this. Basically, there are a number of companies doing this, and it's been taken on by a lot of police jurisdictions in particular. So there's automated police report writing happening. The main way that it's done is that the audio from body-worn camera footage is uploaded into the program. The program transcribes it, Uh, and the program creates an outline of what happened. Really a report. I mean, uses large language models to write out, officer arrived on the scene, and found three youth. One of them appeared to be holding a gun. They were approached. Two of them ran. The one that appeared to be holding the gun, we grabbed. He was resisting arrest. He was taken into custody. Da 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 da. Right? That's a first draft. Um, Police spend an unbelievable amount of their time writing police reports. Now, I know some people who would say, well, that's good because that means that they're not out bothering people in the community. That's a minority view. A lot of people want the police out, you know, connecting with the community, working the beat, whatever, doing real investigative work, solving crimes, being a deterrent to crime, et cetera, et cetera. So the potential for automated police report writing is that it speeds up that desk work, lets them do real police work. There is a human in the loop the entire time, meaning that after the report is written, the humans go back and they read and they verify and they say, yep, this is right. They might fill it out with some detail, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Big efficiency. The problems, the problems. One that's pretty technical and legal. Officers often use police reports to refresh their memory when they're on the stand, called as witnesses in court. Very common practice. When after action they write their report by hand, you can kind of trust that they're, you know, if you have some good faith, if you believe in, if you believe it, that they're trying to write a decent, honest, accurate report. But are automated reports valid for this if they didn't fully write it? Can you refresh your memory with an automated report? I don't know. I don't know. And that hasn't been adjudicated yet in court. We'll see if that actually ever comes up. Um, a second and more bad thing that can happen, and this is not uncommon, is there have been cases where officers are saying what officers are saying in the audio doesn't match what's happening in the video. There have been cases where an officer is beating up a suspect, somebody that they're trying to arrest, while saying over and over again, stop resisting. And the video evidence shows that the person was never resisting. The automated report writing software takes that audio and says, suspect was resisting arrest. And so that leaves it up to the public defender to review all of this video and make sure, am I seeing what I'm hearing? And then they have to go in and they have to argue, bring that up, file motions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that could slip by. So those are problems. I'm not being very positive, am I? But imagine a similar tool being used by social workers or case managers. Like I said at the outset, the backbone, the real backbone of community well-being as a form of justice, as part of the criminal justice system, right? These are the people that you may get assigned to in a pretrial setting that may have ways of providing you access to mental health care, job training, childcare, uh, public benefits, including cash assistance, housing, all of that, right? These are the social workers. These are the caseworkers. These are the people that take care of us. They spend a huge amount of their day writing reports. After every session, they will write a report. What if this were automated, right? These are a lot less critical. Um, they don't determine liberty, freedom, release from jail, term of incarceration, any of that. These are simply about trying to help people, by and large. Um, if we could save social workers hours and hours a week, they could serve a few more clients a week across the entire system. That would be huge. They could spend more time with their clients. Look, doctors have this technology, right? So one of the things that I found when I was at the tech policy conference in Berkeley was tons of investment in tech for housing, tons of employment, education, all of these things that really touch on the criminal justice system, that are really what we're trying to look at when we're trying to reform things, when we're imagining a future with less incarceration, a more supportive system. People are investing in all of that. So, and you know that healthcare is one of the biggest industries in the entire country. I mean, we spend ludicrous amounts of money on healthcare. So it makes sense that doctors already have technology developed. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this. I haven't. A colleague of mine has, where the doctor has a pad that's running an application that is an AI note taker. Not only that, it is suggesting questions for the doctor to ask. It is suggesting possible diagnoses, illnesses they may be suffering from. It might even suggest medicines, other tests to do. Doctors have this. If our social workers had this, and it was telling them, here are the local programs that might be able to help. Have you asked, whether they have somebody to take care of their kid while they go to court? Here are the local medical clinics that have, here are the shelters for unhoused people that actually have beds and are right down the street or the next county over. Here's a program to get them bus fare. Imagine that level of augmentation. To me, that is a 100% positive. Now, again, we have to worry about the data retention, who holds on to that data, who gets that data after the fact. And there's this sort of broader philosophical question about, is there a right to be forgotten? Okay, so that's a couple of use cases. There's evidence processing, there's predictive policing, there's deciding where to send the police, how many police to send, how they should be armed, not armed, et cetera. There's even AI-powered drones in prisons that are looking for signs that violence might occur and then dispatching officers in riot gear before anything happens. And imagine how dangerous the false positive there could be to both the incarcerated people and to the guards, the risk of sparking more violence. Okay. Last, I'm going to give you a very scary possibility to me. And I forgot to say at the outset, yes, I am the executive director of the AI and Justice Consortium. We are nonpartisan. My job is to facilitate these discussions. I am here speaking really as myself, right? These are my views. Very scary possibility to me is this wild idea I heard recently that people are really trying to develop, that we could use AI to read suspects' brainwaves. So what happens when you see a picture of a place you've been before is that certain parts of your brain fire up. So if you're shown the scene of a crime and your brain fires up in that spot of recognition, are you guilty of committing that crime? Is that valid evidence? Is it circumstantial? It raises serious constitutional questions also about self-incrimination, around forced testimony. They're forcing your body to tell on you. So, wild stuff. Okay. How can I possibly say that AI in criminal justice is nothing new? Which is the title of my talk today. From the technological standpoint, Machine learning, which is really what AI is, has been used for decades in the bigger, wealthier jurisdictions, right? New York, Chicago, Houston, LA. Um, it's also been used for decades in forensic analysis, like fingerprint identification. More recently, facial recognition, these acoustic tools like ShotSpotter, predictive modeling. Um, it's really only that the tools now, in what we call AI now, are a lot more powerful and more importantly, they're just much more affordable and widely available. So you have small towns with two traffic lights and 37 traffic cameras, right? All connected via AI. Small towns, small jurisdictions. Um, so we've already been dealing with this, and it's just got a fancy new name and a new brand, AI. And the wider marketing of AI is that we're not supposed to understand it, and we're supposed to trust it, and we're supposed to believe, and this is important, we're supposed to believe that we're powerless to make decisions about it, that it's inevitable. Okay. Second reason I can say that AI is nothing new in criminal justice is that we already have most, if not all, of the laws that we need to determine AI's legal use in criminal justice, right? We've been doing privacy and surveillance law for centuries. We've been doing procedural law, evidence law for centuries. We've been doing liability law for centuries, and we have been doing civil rights law for centuries. This addresses almost all of it already. Okay, third, and this is maybe cheeky, but the third thing that it's nothing new is the data. And this is what I've said before. The data is old data, reflecting how things are and were. And that's all that AI has to work with, nothing new. We can tweak the weights, give different prompts to the system, but ultimately, the AI is only able to reproduce the existing and historical reality. It isn't going to invent the world that we want. And that's my final reason. That's my final point, really, is as always, it's up to people to change the criminal justice system, to improve justice. And we've been doing that forever. We've been trying to do that forever. AI doesn't change that in any way. So it's nothing new. We have the strategies to make the changes already in place. We probably need some new ones, but that has nothing to do with the emergence of AI. It only has to do with participation, leverage, movement building, organization, research, new theories of change. So if we understand all of that and we really internalize it, then we actually have the power to control the situation. So AI can be used for good or for bad in criminal justice. And it's not an absolute mystery, but rather a highly marketed technology and one whose makers, for economic reasons, and I'm talking about the big AI labs here. I'm talking about the open AIs. I'm talking about the Googles. And this isn't to throw them under the bus, but it's simple branding. It's simple marketing. They want to make it magical and mysterious. And that has trickled into our perceptions when we come at it from the criminal justice lens. If we can shake that, which we should be able to, we'll see that it's only a tool. And in our hands, we can probably figure out how to use it for good. So the last thing I'll say before we go to question and answers, I'm sorry I've gone so long, is that we have to engage and participate in this field, right? That's it. That's it. We can't ignore it. Um, and it needs us all. So I very much appreciate you all signing on today. And I hope my comments have made things clearer rather than more confusing. I know it's daunting, but I hope it's less daunting. And it certainly is not inevitable that it's used for bad. Can I open it up for questions and comments? because I am completely serious. We got to talk about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your address. Now, there is a question that's in the chat that's been sitting in the chat for quite a while.
I missed it.
Let's see if I can find it again. I think it's from Alicia Richardson.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah. If this is based on data, language, and historical records, which are inherently known to be how does this help or eliminate racist practices? And I believe that was back to uh, risk assessment, right? So, am I getting that right? Um, I think. So, the it's a great question. Um, Basically, the way that the PSA and Compass, the two main tools that are based on 1.5 million cases, et cetera, the way that they get it right, or that they help or eliminate racist practices, uh, dang, that's a good question. Part of it is proven out in the outcomes, right? It actually has reduced racial disparities in pretrial decisions, pretrial release decisions. But how it does it is a sort of deeper question, I think, that involves the psychology of the judges and the prosecutors. Um, a lot of times when a judge hears a person's background or where a person is from or simply sees the color of their skin, they're going to make very biased judgments. So the worst offenders, meaning the worst judges, have something to look at that at least is going to show them what the mean is. But ultimately, it's really that the proof is in the pudding. It simply has actually reduced some amount of racial disparity and socioeconomic disparity in the incarceration levels, pre-trial. Okay, that's not a very satisfying answer, I know, um, but it's what we got, and that's sort of how a lot of the criminal justice system is, frankly, sort of just what we got. Okay, any other questions? A
I
comment also
I
great. Yeah.
have a question. So I'm very familiar with um, the example you gave with physicians because I used to be the CIO of Cook County Health, Stroger Hospital, Cermak, the whole thing with up to date. So I look at this AI and Dr. Watson, because I used to be with IBM and all of that, is one big database. And I'll piggyback off of Dr. Richardson's question because I see it as it's just a lot of data being put together, and you go out here and ask this question, and it comes back and search and give you the answer. But sometimes the answer is not the right answer for that situation. And that's awful scary. I think someone put it in the chat that when you're talking about judicial system and they go and get all of this analysis and get AI talking. I saw something the other day that we thought we had the bears that was coming from Cleveland. Oh, everybody was excited because we get this defense. He's not even coming. So it's all what is spam, what is real. So then you start being afraid of the data,
Mm-hmm.
the accuracy of the data.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, I'm up and down because I've been in IT since 75. So I'm kind of getting a little leery here.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the thing is, it's not going to let us stop thinking, right? We need that level of literacy about, uh, A, the quality of the data that exists, and B, the accuracy of, what might come out of it, and realize that we are still in charge, that it's still up to us to take what comes out and say, that looks fake. or say, you know what, that's actually a good idea that this piece of technology just gave me.
Now, I do like the fact of how the doctors are using up to date. I do like that. I like how they're going through the diagnosis and everything, but I just want to be a little bit more cautious, especially when you're talking about somebody going to jail for a lifetime.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, is that we're talking about liberty decisions here, right? We're talking about freedom. Look, to me, justice is not written down in the law. It's humans' job to try to do justice with the law as it's written. So that's one thing. The second thing is that when it comes to liberty decisions, we got to have some kind of basic rules. AI can never make that decision. And to be clear, really nobody's proposing that. There may be some very, very fringe actors proposing that, but nobody in the conversation that's taken seriously at all is proposing that, you know, it's not RoboCop, it's not Skynet. Nobody's after that. But really, it is going to remain up to humans to do justice. And the question, I think, is the data that's going into these systems, the data that's coming out of it, how leery we are of that, how we can validate whether or not the data is, whether or not the outputs are accurate and useful. It's going to take a lot of people asking a lot of questions and being quite suspicious. So I appreciate that a lot. I'm getting behind on these question lists. These are great questions. The rate at which AI-enabled services are being adopted is disproportionate to the rate at which we are advancing on reforms or advocacy for applying laws that not only protect citizens, but also improve the criminal justice system. What are the measures to be put in place to protect those who may become victims of shortcomings of AI systems? Meaning, until the systems regulate and improve post-AI hype. Nothing. There are no measures really being put in place yet. That's all I got to say. So we need to work on it. And I mean, look, my organization is the first organization fully dedicated to AI and criminal justice. The reason we started it, and it is a partnership with a number of other organizations, and we're trying to get more on board, is specifically to address this question. So, you know, what can we do to make sure that things don't go terribly, terribly wrong? And then, of course, how can we make sure that it makes things better? Shavella Jordan asks, how long are risk-based assessments valid? A year, but situations can change in months. Risk assessments are just used in the moment at the pretrial. In the pretrial context, they're just used at that one moment. They'll redo them if somebody's arrested again or down the road. And they're not used on release decisions once somebody is incarcerated, the pretrial ones at least. Garrett McClendon.
Hey, Christopher, how are you? You know what? I think Dr. Roper was first. I'll let him go ahead. I think he had his hand up.
Sure. Sorry, I missed that. Dr. Roper.
No problem. Thank you. So, I mean, we know AI is not going anywhere. It's leading the path. It's a lot of great things that it offers. You know, however, there's some things that are questionable. So how do we better teach that? How do we overcome that? Because it's not going anywhere. So no, we need that human aspect of it. It can't, especially when it comes to justice, but from a data, point. So, how do we teach that so that way we can get to that point, or at least better, the situation with it, because it's here to stay, and it's just going to evolve as time goes, especially when it comes to those inequalities.
Yeah, I
guess my question is what tools do we have or out here so that we can educate ourselves more on it, or that we can educate students or, other peers on, a better use of AI when it comes to the criminal justice or, those inequalities?
So there is a growing body of research and writing that is hard to find, sort of,
Right. Yes,
right?
definitely. Because I looked. Yeah.
Well, and that's another reason that we started this organization. One of our goals is to put together a online library that's kept up to date with summaries that's searchable of the best policy research, litigation, et cetera, going on around AI and criminal justice. But the truth of the matter is, and you know, there's just not enough energy, not enough thought being dedicated to this. Um, we're at the beginning of the field. I think I don't even consider, look, I don't consider myself an expert in it. I think that I know of maybe 20 people who I would consider experts in it. The issue really is um, that we're talking about the entire criminal justice system, right? There are experts in so many different, there are experts in restorative justice, there are experts in due process and criminal procedure, there's experts in evidence law specifically, there are experts in conditions of confinement, there are reentry experts, right? We're overlaying another entire field on top of that field. There are machine learning experts who are expert in AI experts that are really specialized. There's very few people who understand the whole cake, the whole puzzle. So we have a really large task ahead, but it needs to be taken quite seriously. As far as the literacy about um, how accurate or good AI is, I look at it a bit like the old, you know, unsolved and media literacy education type stuff, right? Like, how can you tell if news is biased or even true? These are problems that we've already been facing, we're facing, and they're probably going to be accelerated. They are being accelerated, I think, by AI. This goes across social media, but then you bring it into the courtroom. There are certain laws now saying that if you know AI generated content is in a courtroom, it needs to be, or some saying that it can't come into a courtroom. So, I'm sorry to say that I don't have the best answer, except that we just need to get involved.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know it's going to take time to, the years, 10 years, whatever, to build that data up. I mean, and from a courtroom standpoint, I would look at it as if you creating some type of simulation, I get it. You're
Hmm.
going to use some type of AI there, so, but yeah, that's just, I mean, because I know some people try to stray away from it, but it's here to stay. So it's just only going to continue to evolve. So I think that's something, worth, researching and look more into. So, but yeah, that's all I had.
No, Dr. Roper, that's excellent. What I can say is that people are really interested, and that goes across all the different stakeholder groups,
Yeah.
right? So that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
Definitely.
the okay, actually, I left out basically the most hopeful thing. And Garrett, then I'm going to give it to you really quick. But the most hopeful thing that I've seen is that I am talking with people that look. I come from a very progressive advocacy, research, et cetera background. I'm having conversations in this space at the intersection with people that I would never talk to and worked with before. People who are conservative, people who are even right wing at times. AI has yet to be politicized, right? There are people on the left who think it's great, people on the left who think it's terrible, somewhere in between, people on the right who think it's great, people on the right who think it's terrible. So we have this amazing opportunity that might be fleeting, might go away, to come together in a pretty big and broad way and come up with some underlying principles and dedicate ourselves to figuring out what the values should guide. Um, and I'm seeing that happen. I truly am. Um, and it's tremendously exciting. Okay, Garrett, and then
Yeah.
I think we're at time, but I'm happy to stay a little late.
I'll make it quick. I want to say, Christopher, thank you for this workshop today, man. I mean,
Thank
I'm frightened and I'm mind blown by the information that you've given us today. And I'll throw some thoughts out there and a question toward the end. My thoughts. That Flock AI, Christopher, is unbelievable. I mean, they got license plate readers. I mean, in Chicago, people ride the shoulders on the Dan Ryan Expressway, and like Flock AI, it takes the picture of the license plate of the shoulder rider, and then they're sent that $250 ticket. And people are like, how did they know I was on the shoulder? It's that Flock AI, you know. You talked about AI note taking in policing. I think that's interesting because, like, if you take AI's notes a day later, it's no longer contemporaneous.
Not only that, a lot of the predictive stuff, a lot of the LLMs will produce a different thing given the exact same prompt.
Right.
So if you
Abs-
run it again, it could be a different output.
which brings me to the point of a good friend of mine is Jennifer Eberhardt. She and I do perception studies. You're familiar, Christopher. And it's
Very.
like if two men steal some Altoids mints from a store, right? Uh
Hmm.
the darker skinned man will get a greater sentence. Yeah, I mean, they did the same crime. And so, like, once this stuff is fed into AI, then that becomes the narrative. It's not as if AI is wrong, it's that the human beings fed it the wrong information,
Yep.
you know. And I tell my students, AI has a lack of subtraction. So, like, for instance, if I go into two or three LLMs today and I say that Gerard McClendon, that's me. Gerard McClendon is a white man born in Sweden. He has 10 children who are white who live in Norway. He's a billionaire. He's friends with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. If I put that in 5 or 10 large language models, it'll start to believe it.
Yes.
Oh my God. And so this I'm trying to make it quick, but it's just what you gave us today is unbelievable. Not enough people of color working in AI and in justice spaces. And then lastly, um, what got me was when you said that large language models are based on all words on the internet and it just predicts the next word or most predictable answer. That's scary because I have to tell some people, close friends of mine, do not use AI as your therapist. It does not have empathy. Like they're like,
Right.
Gerard, I asked AI this, and you know, should I do this? I'm like, really? And then here's the thing. Just as an infrared sensor on a touchless hand dryer doesn't recognize my hand because darker skin tones are absorb the light, whereas lighter skin tones reflect the light. I mean, I don't know how many times an infrared dryer didn't work for me. I got to move my hand. I got to do all this because it's absorbing the light,
Right.
And so, lastly, do you see judges using AI for sentencing and then taking the mean on the sentence?
That I can't answer. That last one I can't answer. Um, but I'd like to know also. Um, Gerard, sorry, got your name wrong at
It's okay.
first. Um, there's a lot there. And also, I'm a huge fan of Jennifer Eberhardt and would love to connect after this because I've actually been hoping to connect with her for years. And strangely, the how I got into machine learning work years ago was trying to build a model that could uh, identify different narrative frames around gender, race, and power. And a bunch of the work that we were doing, we used her work as a big piece of information on what those frames were, what those frames should be. So that's wild to come full circle like that and meet you here for me. But I think yeah, I don't I those are all just great points. and the stuff we need to be thinking about and having a conversation. And I wish we had weeks to sit together and, like I said at the beginning, come up with the principles, come up with it all. And I think that we could do a good job. Like, I don't think that this is special knowledge or needs special people. I mean, there's definitely technical expertise, legal expertise that needs to be in the room, but I bet it's here. Um, so I encourage you all to stay connected, reach out. We're gonna, my organization is sort of in stealth mode right now. We're fundraising, developing partnerships, and we should be launching publicly in February. I'll make sure to stay in touch. I hope you all stay in touch with me. Dr. Professor Black, what do we do? What do we do now?
Okay. I think we've gone a little over time. We have a question. What's the name of your organization?
The AI and Justice Consortium. Currently, we are developing partnerships, folks who are on board right now already. I can name are the Center for Justice Innovation, which is a major organization based in New York City that works nationally. They do a lot of direct services, a lot of diversion. They're like 1,000 people, $100 million. I can't even believe they're listening to me at all. It's fantastic, but they're brilliant. The Criminal Law and Justice Center, based at UC Berkeley School of Law. We have Microsoft's Technology for the Public Good team. They've given us some funding, and a fabulous guy named Kevin Miller is now on our board. We have the Howard Law AI Initiative, which is a fantastic new organization, and we're working on a bunch more. Yes, happy to share my email. I'll just share it in the chat. Give me some grace in terms of responding. I will. .org. Let's see if I at AIandJustice.org. I certainly will respond, but I am a little bit slow and under capacity these days as we raise money. Taking a lot of meetings, which is great, but also has me a little bit scattered and slow at times.
So I just wanted to thank you again for your wonderful attention for us. We're looking forward to working with you for more in the future. I wanted to acknowledge our dean for the College of Arts and Sciences is in the session, Mark Smith. Also, the chairperson for the Criminal Justice Department, Dr. Mohammed Saluddin, is here. So thank you very much, everyone. And we're going to continue this conversation moving forward. Have a good afternoon.
Have a good afternoon, all. Thank you.